Hello and welcome to Insanity XD. I am your sweet sounding host speaking. Remember, if you do not hear me, then it is simply not official. Okay, so you've decided you want to watch anime, right? But you don't want to watch it illegally on streaming sites, and you don't want to fork out for Crunchyroll, Hulu, whatever other app there is out there, right? Luckily for you, you have Netflix, and you've seen they have their own original anime section. But what's this? You're unable to distinguish between the trash and the treasure? Don't worry, I'm here for you. I've got you. Alright, the first recommendation is Baki, starting off with the best original Netflix anime they have produced in a while. Keynote, don't get confused with the whole Baki and Baki Hanma series being separate to each other. I honestly don't know why Netflix did this, but don't fret, it's just a continuation from the third season. Honestly, they should have just called it Baki Season 4, but hey, we move. The story is about 17-year-old Baki Hanma, who is trying to avenge his mother by defeating his father in battle, the ogre Yajiro Hanma, who I should mention is quite literally the strongest creature alive. Yeah, this dude throws hands with anything and comes out on top, on God. Now, Baki isn't a slouch himself, but this kid's gonna need a lot of training arcs and plot armor. Season 4 fight with Olivia, I'm looking at you. Season 1 is about these crazy escaped prisoners who, for no reason at all, well, for the sake of synchronicity, all decide to go to Japan to throw hands against the strongest fighters to taste defeat. I'm not going to spoil it, but they definitely get their money's worth. This bleeds into Season 2, but it honestly manages to set up the tournament arc of Season 3 quite well. I will note in Baki that the fights are generally top tier. The animation is usually 2D with the odd 3D fight. However, this is more prevalent in the first season. Keynote, Season 4 of Baki, in my opinion, has the worst volume of fights. You're going to get 4 good fights out of those 12 episodes. The story of Baki, super simple. Baki wants to get strong. There is no lore to this series, so don't worry about trying to dig deeper into things. Apart from Baki and his dad, we have some generally interesting characters like Biscuit Olivia, Doppo Orochi, Hanayama, and Tokagara. I won't spoil too much, but these guys basically carry some of the series at times. Fun fact, Baki has a lot of unofficial celebrity cameos. They do this thing where it's like one word of the IRL person, like George Bosch, Muhammad Ali, even Pac-Man himself. Although it's key to note that Manny Pacquiao, I'm sorry I'm butchering that, he actually keeps it the same, the author. I think he really wanted to pay homage to him. Homage, whatever you want to call it. Berate me down below if I've done a bad job. I actually find these to be really cute. I'm sorry if that's cringe, but to be honest, it lets you imagine that Baki could exist IRL, you know? The appeal of the series for me honestly comes from its original simplistic story, exceptionally drippy fights. Honestly, on God, this will have you thinking you're watching a UFC match. Can I say that without getting demonetized? Oh, never mind. There's very, very creative techniques. I have never heard of a bite technique like Jack Hanma's or Shogun Ron's pocket technique. The level of creativity is honestly insane, and you can see how much care goes into showing you that pretty much anything can be a fighting style. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a chair fighting style, or even a table one for that matter. One downside of Baki is there are some sussy scenes, which I won't go into, but just make sure you keep your eyes out for Granny and Grandpa, alright? Each season is 13 episodes long, with one OVA episode, excluding season 4, which is 12 episodes. The good thing about Baki is that you don't have to worry about if it's going to continue or not, as there is plenty of source material left to cover. The latest season actually covered stuff made in 2008. What does that tell you? Keynote, the Netflix series actually continues on from the original Baki the Grappler 2001 series. If you're looking to get the whole story, I recommend starting there, but honestly, it's not that crucial to do. Now, my second recommendation, Dorohedoro. Listen, if you're looking for a JoJo-esque series with a magical feeling to it, look no further. Dorohedoro follows a 7-foot man with a lizard head called Kaiman as he looks for, guess what? His human head, with his friend Nikaido, who runs a restaurant called The Hungry Bug. Won't spoil it, but she has some secrets going for her as well. Kaiman's head was apparently stolen by a magic user in this dismal place called The Hole, where humans are subjected to magical experiments against their will. Think of it as, like, animal testing, but a bit more insane. And if you ask me, Kaiman got off lightly, as some of these other guys, well, see for yourself. There is this organization called the N Family. They dominate the business side of the whole, all aspects of it. Notable members are Shin, who is this cleaner for N, and he basically does his dirty work with a hammer and a heart mask. And his partner Noi, who basically fangirls over him and towers over him for that matter. Now, You do have Fujitawa and Ebisu, and they serve as basically comic relief. Honestly, at times you might feel sorry for how useless Fujitawa is, yet he always tries his hardest to appease N, which is hilarious. Oh, and of course, we can't forget Kikoridge, who is basically the mascot. Fun fact, won't spoil it, but Ebisu gets done dirty in the first episode. There's a bit of lore to unpack with the series, but it's not too hard to wrap your head around. The settings are honestly some of the most creative I've ever seen. The fights, which are a bit far and few in between, but honestly, the show is generally carried by the fun adventures the characters have, which I honestly find just as enjoyable, if not more, than watching the fights. This series has some of the most unique powers I've ever seen, such as En's mushroom ability and Shin's slicing ability. Keynote, this series is entirely in 3D, but it's so beautiful you basically forget that once you get past the first episode. Honestly, there is currently only one season, but it's highly likely we're going to get a second. We've had 6 OVA episodes and there is plenty of source material. Pick this bad boy up if you're looking for a more adventure-based series with wacky characters and lovingly designed worlds, as well as a healthy sprinkle of slapstick comedy. Coming in third, Agretsuko. Alright, hear me out. This is probably the most unconventional recommendation I will have for you, coming from someone like me, of course. No, I haven't thrown this in just to seem like I generally have varied taste. I am a big fan of slice of life, low-key. I've got a few under my belt, Watamote, Saikk, and there is this one, I forgot the name of it. I'll put an image of it now, but I honestly forgot the name. Berate me down below if you know what it's called. The series is about 25-year-old Red Panda Retsuko working in a typical office setting while having to deal with all the work-related stress which comes from capitalist society, hey-ho. However, she has a very unique way of venting. Death metal karaoke. Side note, I really like the Paper Mario-esque animation style. It reminds me of a cartoon, and it's not done poorly. It manages to still convey the feelings of the characters to a T. Season 1 is basically world building, in my opinion. There is a bit of drama towards the end in regards to, I'm going to butcher this, Resasu? Oh my god, Resasuke A. We'll call him that. He's mainly introduced as like a love interest towards the end, but this guy doesn't last long. Sorry, that's a spoiler. It's mainly introducing the long-lasting characters like Haida the simp, Feneko the typical workmate who's low-key a hater, I cannot lie to you, Goro and Washimi the two higher-ups who are basically mentors in a way, and of course, my personal favourite, Director Ton, who takes every opportunity to make Retsuko's life a pain. Retsuko's life a pain. Fun fact, I actually used Ton as my Netfile profile picture. I just like how squashed his face looks, and that menacing grin of his is honestly so funny to me. Season 2 is mainly focused on a relationship with its donkey called Tadano, who's basically minted, and the sad reality of how nothing is usually as it seems in this world. Season 3 is... it's an odd one in my opinion. Retsuko's basically become an idol and having to juggle work life and band life. In my opinion, this season is pretty much the best written, as it tries to highlight the dangers many of these Japanese idols face from stalkers without spoiling too much. Our boy Haida keeps getting done dirty on a daily. This guy's got the opposite of plot armor going for him at this point. I haven't seen the 4th season yet, don't kill me, I'll be sure to catch up with it. Each season consists of 10 episodes with one Christmas special like the first season. To me, the appeal of the show comes from its charming art style, slice of life storyline, and honestly shockingly realistic characters. Pick this up if you're looking for casual viewing with a little bit of spicy realistic drama. 4th recommendation, Deadman Crybaby. Devilman Crybaby. God, someone hit me. This was my first Netflix original anime. Wow, time flies. I picked this bad boy up in 2017. I was 15 years old. The story is about a typical high schooler, Akira Fudo, who basically goes through the motions until he bumps into his childhood friend Ryo while fighting off a gang. Yeah, typical high school stuff. Ryo spills the beans and tells Akira demons live among them and they need to throw hands / expose them. So they go to a nightclub, if you could call it that, and they start treating it like a creative lobby in Fortnite. Akira is straight up cracked and gets a new demon form, which is lit, because now he can throw hands on the best of them. Ryo has the power of money and a gun. I won't spoil his other powers in terms of other things, but let's just say the side characters are somewhat interesting. You pretty much have nothing outside of our main character and Ryo, to be honest. There is this love interest Miki, but she'll soon fade out of your memory, trust me. It's such a shame this series is only 10 episodes long. It's so unique. They could have made a couple of other seasons. The animation reminds me of like Chinese anime in a way, which is pretty cool. And I don't know how to describe this, but it also reminds me of putty / clay. The only downside of this anime is its rampant use of nudity and other adult themes. Definitely one for private viewing. I recommend this series if you're into darker things. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself. I recommend this series if you're into darker themes, sort of like Berserk or I'll get back to you on that one. Seven Deadly Sins. This is a hard one for me, guys. Seven Deadly Sins was my boy, and look how they massacred him. Like, you already know what happened to the series. It's a crime. Anyway, getting into the meat and potatoes. This series is about the Seven Deadly Sins, and well, depending on what season you're on, they're either fighting demons or trying to get their clout back. Mainly throwing hands of demons, to be honest, is the main pudding of this. We got our main character, Meliodas, who's the dragon sin of wrath. He's kind of bland for a main character, in my opinion. His personality is just not cutting it for me. Like, he reminds me of a high schooler with too much to handle. His background is decently fleshed out without spoiling too much. The other sins are Ban, the Foxy, the Greed. The Fox Sin of Greed. He's 6'11" and wears this red leather suit, which would be banning in black. He's your typical smoke demon and adds a bit of comic relief at times. Keynote, Ban has some questionable tastes in his women, but he's okay in my books. Diane, the Snake Sin of Envy, she's just odd in my opinion. Like, for the first half of the series, she fangirls all over Meliodas, and then the second half, she's come to terms with her feelings for King. She's not weak by any means, but you will kind of forget about her once the story continues. She gets a new outfit, but that's pretty much all she ever gets. Oh, and some, like, new giant powers. King, the Bear Sin of Sloth, is an outright simp for Diane. That's pretty much all you're going to remember him for, if I'm honest. And the fact he's a fairy. He does get some new drip, like his crush gets, but that's pretty much all. Oh, and wins. Gopher, the goat sin of lust. Can I say that without getting demonetized? You see, Gopher is a bit of an odd character. He's not human. He's basically a living doll with a girl's face and a man's body who chooses to dress like a woman. Apart from his sussy behavior, he has some pretty cool telekinesis skills and a pink bow which he can summon at will. He's basically a psychopath, I cannot lie to you, but like Ban, I'll turn a blind eye to his faults. Merlin, the boss in the gluttony, is, in my opinion, half fan service in their opinion, and other half a generally useful character. She's the magical prowess of the group and really comes in handy in a pinch. Won't spoil too much, but she also has a bit of a mystery to her. And finally, the GOAT himself, the main man, Lion Sin of Pride, Escanor. To be honest, Escanor in his nighttime form is rather meek and unimpressive. He's well spoken, which I respect, but his true goatness comes from when he enters his daytime form and stands on top, the pinnacle of the power scale, as the one. His arrogance is actually permitted, in my opinion, and he has some of the best fight scenes in the series, which I find nice because Seven Deadly Sins is pretty much half battle, half world building, in my opinion. Speaking of which, across all 4 seasons, no stone is left unturned in terms of lore, and I mean that. Each season contains a healthy 24 episodes, and it's key to note that Signs of a Holy War, which they call Season 2, is pure filler. It doesn't count. Get rid of it. It's not counted. The appeal of Seven Deadly Sins comes from its world building, complex story, and the occasional drippy fight. Now for the elephant in the room, the downside of this series. It's rather obvious, apart from the fan service, Elizabeth. But the animation drop is honestly a crime. Season 1 and 2, in my opinion, had god-level animation and story. Every expression is clear, every fight is detailed, and even the little things like the background simply looks cleaner. Now, I'm not knocking the other seasons. Honestly, TV Tokyo tried their best, given their circumstances. I respect that, but when you put it side to side with the works of A1 Studios, it's honestly heartbreaking. If it wasn't for the animation change, Seven Deadly Sins would have been my number 1. However, I still wholeheartedly recommend this to you as an experience you will want to see to the end once you're committed. Well, that's my list. If you have a thought you wish to be heard, a complaint you wish to be known, and an idea you want to be seen, please comment down below. I've been your host, and it's been an honour to speak to you today.